Hi, Trevor. Thank you for submitting your poem again. It was great to get a chance to read it through a few more times and think about some other suggestions I have for you as you work on editing and revising. So once again, I really liked this poem overall, just how your voice really came through, especially in showing these themes of strength, faith, and family that definitely have impacted you as you have grown up and helped you to become who you are. And so I really loved just getting to see a little more of who you are and just some of the metaphors you use, especially the metaphor about plants and roots and growth and how you've grown up over the years. So thank you again for taking the risk and trying this genre of poetry and for submitting this piece of work. In thinking about what I noticed you submitted last week and this week with this poem, I was wondering if you got the chance to make any revisions between last week and this week. And just because I didn't notice any revisions, so I wasn't sure if you'd gotten a chance to look at it, and if not, that's okay. I have some more feedback to give you this week, some suggestions that might sound similar to some of the suggestions I gave you in your feedback for last week, but also some other things I noticed too that you could take a look at as you're editing and revising for this week as well. So just like any other time, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to comment right on the Google Doc where you submit your poem. You can click this plus button in what looks like a talk bubble, and you can go ahead and just highlight any part of your writing that you have a question on, such as if this was the part you had a question or comment on, you would highlight that with your mouse and then go ahead and click the comment button, and a box would pop up to allow you to do that. So feel free to go ahead and include any questions or comments as you're going through making your revisions. The first thing that I wanted to talk to you about that I noticed was you did a really nice job of including this metaphor of roots and just how connecting it to your family, and how, like a plant, your family has deep roots, and there are certain things that your family is known for and deeply rooted in. And I definitely think this strength and faith aspect of your poem ties in nicely to that metaphor. One suggestion I did have here is just in looking at your word choice. As I was reading your poem, I really got a positive and just a positive voice throughout, and positive themes of strength, faith, and family. And in noticing your word choice here of the word abyss, in looking up the meaning of this word actually has a more negative connotation of in meaning bottomless pit. So I wasn't sure if that's what the meaning you meant to have here. And if not, I was wondering if maybe you could think about some other words that might fit the meaning you were intending to have here. So in thinking about this, I actually found a website called synonymfinder.com, and I'll include the link below, but this is a really great website if you are looking for other words to use to express what you mean in a more specific way. So for example, if you are looking for a word that means something similar to deep or depth, but you don't want to repeat it again in the same sentence, then you could go to this website, type in that word or any other word you're hoping to find a similar word with a similar meaning, and you can search, and it'll give you a lot of suggestions for words you could possibly use, so that you're not being repetitive, but so that you're also conveying the meaning that you mean to in your poem or in your writing. And I would definitely encourage you to check out dictionary.com too, and if you're if you want to go ahead and use a word that you've heard before, but you're not 100% sure of its exact meaning, I would encourage you definitely look it up, and just to make sure, because you probably have a general sense of the word. I know that happens to me a lot of time when I'm writing, is I'll think of a word I want to use that I have a general understanding of it. Maybe I've seen that word as I've read a few times, but I'm not 100% sure of its exact specific meaning, so sometimes I'll go and look up that word just to make sure if I use it, um, it's actually conveying what I want it to convey in my writing. Also, I really liked the part of your writing where you talk about traits that would describe your family, including conscientiousness and tenaciousness. And then below it, you include the phrases watch your fingers and never give up. And I thought that it was really cool that you had these two sentences next to each other, because I thought it seemed like there was a really clear connection between each of these traits in the phrase you included right after. And I thought that really helped to develop a clear understanding of your family and where you come from, by including both traits that would describe your family and specific examples of maybe phrases or things that your family says a lot that would be great examples of how your family shows these traits. So I thought that was really cool that you made that connection there. A suggestion I did have here is, looking below, that I was wondering if you would consider thinking about moving a few things around in your poem to help a little bit with the organization and to help it flow a little better. And I'll let you know what I mean by that. I noticed that down here, when you say, I'm from the Holy Book, which burns inside, I was feeling that maybe that would be a good line to connect to this line up here where you say, I'm from the crackling fire and from the manger scene. And I was wondering if you would consider putting those two lines by each other. So for example, if you were to switch what you have right under this line about the manger scene with this line down here, then it might sound like this. I'm from the crackling fire and from the manger scene, from the Holy Book which burns inside. And then if you were to move this line down here, I'm from Todd and Charity, and then continuing on. And the reason I was thinking that that might work to switch those two things was because I think that there's a clear connection between being from the Holy Book and the manger scene, and just having those two lines be clear examples of the faith you've grown up in. And then moving this part about Todd and Charity down to this section where you're mentioning specific family members and just the impact they've had on you. I thought that that might work better in this section. And then if you were to do that, you'd clearly have examples up here of strength, of faith together, and then in the last part of your poem of family. And then I think having that in that order that you mentioned when you summarize this at the bottom would work really well to help the flow of your poem. Which brings me to my last suggestion and comment. I thought you did a really excellent job of tying together all these parts of your poem and themes in your poem in your last line where you say, I am from a past and present that brings strength, faith, and family. I clearly saw all of those elements throughout your poem and thought you did a nice job keeping those as your focus and then tying them all together in that last line. So great job with that conclusion. One other suggestion I had at the end was about word choice. I was wondering if, in thinking about the word brings, if maybe there was a word you could use to tie your summarizing sentence into your metaphor about growth and about plants. So even saying I'm from a past and present that grows where I have grown in my strength, faith, and family, or even possibly using another word that might explain how you're tying together those themes of strength, faith, and family that you mentioned throughout the poem, because it sounded to me when you were throughout your poem that these were themes that were definitely connected. So I was wondering if there was a word you could use there instead of brings that just explains their connectedness together. So that might be something to consider, going and using the synonyms.com website. I think that for your decision of what word to use there, I think a good place to start in thinking about the type of word that would best fit there would be to think about what is the biggest thing you want to say at the end about your where your strength, faith, and family comes from, or about those three things, and then what word would convey that meaning the best. So as you think of other words, you could type that into the synonyms.com website, just to begin brainstorming some other possibilities, because I think that you're close to having a word that really conveys a strong meaning there. But I'm wondering if you might want to consider exploring some other possibilities just to see if there's a word that would fit better there. So overall, great job. I'm really looking forward to reading your revisions next week, and I just wanted to remind you to check out the Google Classroom to watch a short screencast about the final project that we're encouraging everyone to participate in. So it will give you more information there, but just to give you a brief summary, we're asking if everyone would pick a piece of writing. It could be something that you did over the time that we have worked together as you've explored different genres, or something you have already written that you would consider editing and revising and submitting to the Rochester Area City Literacy Council. So there's more details on the Google Classroom, so definitely check out the screencast that is under week 10, and I am looking forward to reading your next piece of writing next week that you decide to edit and revise. So thank you for all your hard work, and I hope you have a great week.